So as we have a quorum, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order unless the staff folks want to wait until we hear from Dave.
No, Jelaine, the only thing I wanted to just say to the team before you get started is we have a hard stop at 10, so we cannot go beyond that. And right now during this COVID period, we're all kind of vying to use the same meeting rooms. And so those 1 hour hard stops are really important. And we're just focusing on a real minimal, what the city considers essential items only, and we don't get into other topics. So I just ask you guys to respect that, and then you can go ahead and start. I'm not sure what's going on with Dave, but you've got a quorum.
Great. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to all of you. It's really good to see you virtually, and nice to see your faces after a while. So first item is approval of the minutes from March 12th. Did we have any changes or additions?
I move to accept the minutes from that meeting.
I second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Those are accepted. And the next is approval of the minutes from March 19th. Changes or additions?
I move to accept the minutes as submitted.
I second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, great. The next item is public comment. We did not receive any requests for public comment via the virtual meeting. Is anyone from the public attending in person?
No.
Okay, great. So we'll move on with our agenda.
No.
We have monthly state.
If
of
anybody
parks.
can hear me, would you wave? I'm not hearing a thing. Okay.
There,
Bob, you can always connect with your phone if you're not hearing it through the meeting. Oh, he can't hear anything anyway. Shoot.
so we'll go ahead while Bob is working with the technical end of things, and maybe we can.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. So we have monthly state of the parks report.
It's been about 4 months, so this is going to be, I'm going to give you kind of an update of what the situation is in the parks, rather than specify the type of work Joe and I have been doing. Needless to say, we've been pretty busy. We had a COVID schedule, which knocked us back with some hours of maintenance, but anyway, things are okay. What's happening in the parks is June 1st, right on time, we put up the windscreens on the tennis court. The tennis court's opened, and they're getting used. The playgrounds remain closed. The basketball court is theoretically closed. It's taped off. Enforcement has been a real issue. The basketball court's kind of used as part of the skate park, and it's been an ongoing battle to try and keep that closed. The skate park is open. The softball, baseball field is closed. The soccer goals are locked up and the field's closed. There's no Wednesday men's league this summer. There are 2 small soccer goals over at the school, the old school, Nacoos, that are locked up to prevent games from happening. That did happen, but they can still be used for, 1 or 2 or 3 people at a time. There was a concert in the park 2 weeks ago. There's one tonight. There's one scheduled by the Tolovana Arts Colony on July 25th. And the Thursday night thing, I think it's theoretically maybe every other week.
Every other week.
Every other week unless.
Until they run out.
Unless they stop doing it.
Unless they notify us otherwise.
The Lagoon Trail is getting a lot of use. Whether that's attributable to the the pandemic or not, I don't know. I got a hunch it is. The Lagoon Trail is getting a lot of use, and as you saw in the Gazette, the Purple Martin House is having every year gets better. There's at least 6 pairs nesting in the Purple Martin House now. Tolovana Wayside was closed for 2.5 months, led to quite a bit of overflow parking in the neighborhood. Now it's been open for the last month and a half, and things are kind of normal down there.
Yep.
And what's new is the Noatak stairs. Please go walk on them if you haven't. The Noatak stairs, beach access, open and done and new. And also what's new is the Fisherman's Dance Pocket Park at the bottom of Sunset.
Everybody's loving.
Yeah.
Karen thinks people like it.
They love it. I'm getting tons of emails
I've
and
had several
Facebook
people
stuff.
sitting there at that bench.
And
Yeah.
I got, I'll answer any questions or elaborate if you need me to.
Kirk, on the school, now that we own the school, what's our schedule for mowing and kind of maintaining the?
Nothing's changed. We mow it once a week.
Okay,
And we maintain the Nacoos Park. I haven't done anything to the school property.
Okay.
What's gonna happen is, the school district, even up until last month, has been weed eating along Beaver.
right,
And I guess someone's taking care of the little lawn behind the food pantry. I'm not sure if it's a pantry volunteer or the school.
okay,
I'm aware of what they were
It's a
doing, which was very minimal. It was very minimal, and we'll start doing that. Who mows behind the food pantry, Barb?
A volunteer.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I hope they keep doing it. That's wonderful.
okay.
Okay.
Well, can you guys keep that up, Barb? Are you good with that?
I think at this time,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if not, I'll notice it. And there's a
Okay.
couple trees, I'll watch what's happening, but
Okay,
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm not gonna do anything,
put her down on the front.
I'm not gonna do anything
That's,
dramatic until we have the plan of what to do at the school.
reattach it. Okay, yeah, nothing dramatic, just kind of maintain its
I'm just
appearance.
aware that we're responsible for the little bit of stuff those guys did.
Yeah, there's been some kids over doing mischievous stuff. I boarded up some windows that were broken last night, and we're just gonna wait until the, engineering company gives us an assessment before we do anything to it.
Yeah.
But we just need to maintain its appearance the best we can.
Yeah.
Okay,
Every month it gets worse and worse.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, great, thank you.
Just
And,
one extra second. This is Bruce, just happy to see all my Zoomies.
I didn't hear him.
I couldn't understand that.
Couldn't hear that.
Who was that?
Sorry, I said this is Bruce joining you, and it's good to see all my Zoomies.
That's the boss on.
Good to hear you too.
Gotcha.
Hi. Great.
We're trying to have a meeting here.
And I am not a good ingredient, I gotta tell you.
Well, that's great.
All right.
Thank you, and thanks for that. And also just want to add my thanks for the Fisherman's Dance Park. I think it looks great, and I think it's a nice addition. So
Thanks.
work on that. Okay, next item, the Ecola Creek Forest Reserve Plan. So just want to start out by saying my understanding is that given all of the change in the current situation, demands on budget, et cetera, that any projects or the majority of projects that we might be considering are on hold for the present. However, I think we can still move forward with completing our plan update, getting that to council. We just have a couple of more steps. We were closing in on it there, right, as the the circumstances changed. So I wanted to just use the time today to be sure that we're maybe looking at a timeline for those last couple of steps, how we want to proceed with just finalizing what we present to council, and also to consider the public meeting or the public presentation and how we can go ahead and do that. Perhaps, I don't know if that's a Zoom, PowerPoint, or I don't know how we do that, what our options are, but I think that's the other piece that we hadn't decided about and now need to think about differently. Is there anything from staff? Is that accurate as far as I understand kind of where we are with things on the reserve from the city point of view?
Jelaine, this is Kieran, and Bruce, I'll gear this towards you too, because I'm not positive on this, but since the council meeting is a public meeting, would we not go about it our normal way, and that would be considered the public meeting for the team to be able to present both to the council and the public, or do we advertise this as a special meeting of some sort? Do you know what's happened in the past with this?
I don't have the history, but I think that I would base it on how you see the presentation going. If you think it'll be like an hour and a half, 2-hour discussion, then we should probably advertise as a joint meeting. If it's going to be something less,
Okay.
then we could possibly include it in a workshop.
I
we-
think
Okay.
originally we were thinking of a presentation that would be open to the public, likely a PowerPoint, and an opportunity for questions and any feedback that members of the public had, just on a separate evening. And then we certainly would include that PowerPoint and any of the input we had from the public in our presentation to council. And then that obviously will need to be in a different format if we go forward with it. I guess one question I have is there a requirement, or what would the requirement be? How would we need to meet any requirement for informing the public as to the work we've done with the plan update? And then if we can incorporate that in our presentation to council, I think that would perhaps simplify it. But I would need a little clarity on whether a separate presentation is required or needed.
I don't know if a separate presentation is required, but I think it's a good idea for you folks to present to the public first. When I was answering your question, I was just looking at it from the standpoint of presenting it to council. But I've always seen that you folks would, have public meetings before you reach that point.
My understanding was that we were going to do this, and my feeling at least was that it was a matter of getting public buy-in.
Well, it's the buy-in and also the feedback. So you're right, Bob.
Sure, yeah.
I think the purposes we had talked about were to inform the public about what has been done in the reserve over the last 5 years since the original plan, and then to let them know about the projects or proposed areas that we want to prioritize going forward, and then if there's feedback on that. So it's less about general feedback on what to do up there, and more a presentation of where we've been, what we've found with the updated, with the plan update, and then what we're proposing, and then certainly want to hear from public as to, if they have thoughts about that. Does that make sense?
Does to me.
Can I offer some? I'm sorry.
No, I'm done, Karen. Go ahead.
I wanted to offer something that you guys could consider as a approach, and I'm kind of basing this on how Jeff has handled some of his projects under the planning and community development scope, where it's taken, it needs public comment, and go in a two-phase approach. Maybe your first work session with the council is to give your update and recruit public input. We scheduled a second meeting that allows them from the first meeting before the second meeting to submit their input. Based on your update and what you plan to do over the next 5 years, they get that in the first session, the council and the public. We put it out on our website so they have a chance and some time to be able to review it, and then give them a date that they need to be able to give us the feedback before the second meeting that we schedule. And maybe instead of doing it the very following month, we do it 2 months later to give them some time to actually review the material. You could do it in a two-step process that way. Is that something that might work?
Sure.
Would we then be coming back to council then with the final if we're presenting the update to council and at that point taking public feedback on it at the council meeting, am I hearing that?
I would think that your first meeting would be to status them on what's happened in the last 5 years and propose what you see happen in the next 5 years. And at that meeting, tell them that you're asking for public input, and that before you schedule the next meeting, you want to be able to give the public a chance to not only hear your status and proposal to them, but also to review your presentation on the website if they weren't at the meeting or hadn't called in the meeting. And then when you come back to your second meeting, it's basically to review the input you've received from the public and see if there's any modifications you want to make to that.
Yeah, thank you. I think we actually may be at that point now. So I think it may have been in February, January, hard to remember. At a council meeting, we did provide an update where we were, the directions that we, in a general sense, the directions we were thinking of going, what we had done over the last year in reviewing the plan. And we let the council know that we were looking to do a public presentation of some kind prior to bringing it back to them. So, and also just want to open it up to, do we think that we're closer to that point now, having spoken to council in January or February?
I have a question. Do we have a contractual obligation to move ahead on this under a particular calendar? It seems to me that these public meetings should be, in fact, face-to-face, large group public, depending on how many people show up, but actual public meetings at City Hall, unless we have an obligation to get this thing delivered sooner than we would be able to do that.
Well, I think we're balancing a couple of things here. I think we are going to need to look at a different means of presenting to the public. I don't know if that's doing a PowerPoint and making that available online, or perhaps having a Zoom presentation where we are presenting more like we might if we had a in-person meeting. But I think having a in-person group of people meeting for a public presentation, I don't think we can count on being able to do that anytime soon. And we do, and we are kind of, we took, I think, a considered amount of time going through the plan, but I think now we are in the 5-year looking to wrap that up. So my sense is that given the nature of the projects and the nature of kind of where we are right now, the status of things right now, it may be more an opportunity to let the public know what we have accomplished, to give them access to the information about the observations up in the reserve with the plan that Trout Mountain updated, and to let them know things that may be considered, or the things that we would consider priorities or projects to look at going forward, with the understanding that at this point, resources may need to be allocated differently. So this is less about let's do this now and more about, I think, apprising the public of where we are and what we've accomplished. Does that seem reasonable? And I think that's something we could move ahead with once we decide the format that we need to do.
It certainly seems reasonable. The only thing is that I think that there are people who would come to an actual public meeting in person who would get flummoxed about trying to access the material, particularly participating in a meeting like this, like we're having now, or knowing to go and access it on the city's website and how to do that.
Well, I think, maybe, and I'll obviously defer to the staff on this, but I think how we're doing these meetings is encouraging people to participate virtually if they can. And then, am I correct that there's a limited number of in-person spots that are available at the council, in the council?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's-
Jelaine, let me just update you guys on that is, if we were to, do an article in the newspaper, and I can do that with Kathleen Stinson that does our typical, newspaper coverage for us. We can do an article with her. You guys can update her and let her know that our desire is to have a public meeting via Zoom, like we've been doing with council and everything else, and let the public know where we are with it. We make the materials available on the web, and anybody that does not have access to Zoom or has difficulty calling in or difficulty printing the material, all they do is contact City Hall, and we make sure that they have access to that material. We don't want to encourage public meetings that are any more than 10 people. So if someone wanted to come to City Hall and be in the audience when we have this public meeting, they can do so. We're not advertising that because we don't want to encourage large groups of people. And if someone comes down to the door and they've traveled, from the other side of town and they've walked, and I say we're full of 10 people, then they got to walk all the way back home before they can dial in. They miss some of the meeting. And so we never know how full or how minimal our audience is going to be. So this is why we encourage people to call in. I can get them a hard copy of the material, and they can call in with a landline and participate. They don't have to have Zoom to do it. It's very easy. So we will make that available to people with no problem, but we will not encourage face-to-face meetings.
And I think just,
Okay? So if you guys want to take advantage of getting that coverage in the paper, and we can put a link up on our Facebook page to say, we're going to schedule this meeting and give everybody an update as to where we are, and ask for public input, and we'll give them a date and when they need to have that public input to us, then that gives you something to be able to take back to the council and say, we did the public meeting, and we can do 2 of them. We can do one during the day and one later in the evening at 5:30 if you guys want. And that way you've given good coverage to be able to give everybody an opportunity to weigh in on it. And if you have people that can't access the website and or they don't have a printer to get your material, all you need to do is tell me, and I will make sure that I print it and I get it out to them. Whether I mail it to them, I deliver it to them, but I'll get the material in anybody's hands who you guys feel is important to have some weigh-in on this. Okay?
yeah, I think that really covers the obligation to make it available to the public. And if we do a Zoom meeting, that is also something that potentially they could access to watch and then send written feedback in or get the feedback to us. It would have a window of time for that. So my sense is that covers our obligation there and gives people a chance to participate. Any other comment on that before we talk about a couple other things with ECF? That seems like a reasonable way to proceed then.
Do you guys want to set your meetings now so that I can get a hold of the newspaper and Jelaine, they could probably call you and do a phone interview and then advertise those dates for us?
Well, I think that's our next question is we are going to need to figure out how best to produce this PowerPoint since we're not meeting in person. We did get take a few steps down that road at some of our meetings when we were talking about the public meeting and how we might want to go forward. I think we have some general categories identified that we want to speak to. I don't know if we're ready to set a date for that, but I do think we want to be thinking about a timeline here perhaps working back from a date that we would really like to have our final report with public input to the council. You know, for example, if we were saying we would really like to have that to council by October, then we can work back. But I think we also need to think about the method for how we're going to create this this presentation for the public. And I imagine we can have work sessions, but given the scarcity of, or not scarcity, but given the demand for the Zoom meetings, I think we want to be mindful of that too.
Do you guys have a completed draft presentation that you would use to do your public meeting at this point? Is it anything above and beyond what you presented council the last time?
We do have more than that. We do have a kind of a template and a, you know, very rough draft, and I'd be happy to fill in that that PowerPoint that we looked at together a few months ago in a little bit more detail, and then it just as a starting point so folks can, you know, we can work with it from there. But as something where
Okay.
we've got some bullet points and talk about how we might want to present. So I'd be happy to do that and get that to the members as soon as possible. And then I guess we would need a work session if we're going to have any conversations about that prior to August. Certainly like to hear
Okay.
other ideas if folks have other ways that you think it'd be more streamlined or more effective for getting something together.
Okay, so I'm going to be your time monitor here. You're a half hour into your meeting and you have your community grants to go over, which is a important priority here. So if you guys aren't able to set your dates today on when you'd like to do your public meetings, we can talk about a work session for you guys to be able to do that. It would have to be Zoom work session.
Do we feel like
if you
we're,
need a meeting to set your meetings, we can do that.
excuse me, do we feel like we're at a place we could talk about a date maybe for the presentation? Like to hear from folks on that.
Okay. I've got my calendar up in front of me.
Are we shooting for July? Are we shooting for August? Hello.
Hello.
Sorry, my sense is as a group, we're going to want to look at this together. So maybe September?
Okay.
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 I'm sorry, Luann, I saw you there. Did you have a thought about that?
You're talking about the final presentation or
The public.
We're
public?
talking
one to
about
the-
your dates to hold public meetings.
You're talking about September for the public meeting?
That's what I was wondering.
Probably.
Anybody else have thoughts about that? Middle, end of September? Or perhaps around the time of our September meeting?
That's what I'm looking at. You want to make it a week after the September meeting on the 24th? Are we talking about a daytime? This is the daytime or evening meeting?
I would propose that you do one of each if you want to get good public input. There's some people that work and they can't be at a day meeting.
Is this
Want
the
to have
kind of,
those on the same day?
September 24th has an 8 o'clock meeting that'll go sometimes till 10, and it also has a 6 PM planning commission.
Didn't think about that.
Could we do
Uh,
the 23rd or the 25th?
Okay.
Okay with me.
25th is a Friday.
Yeah, the 25th is a Friday.
I would
23rd?
avoid a Friday. If I were you guys, I would, back it up to the 23rd, which is a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So they
How's that look?
work at 10 o'clock.
So we have court at 10 o'clock, but you could do an afternoon meeting, say at 3.
I'm
we do-
not available on Wednesdays because of the food pantry. If that
That's right.
matters.
Mhm. Could we do Tuesday, the 22nd?
Yep. Mhm.
Tuesday, the
Yeah,
22nd?
You could do it after 11 o'clock. Let me see what's after 11.
We're good after
We're
11.
good
Okay,
after
we're
that.
open after 11. So the 22nd, you could do one during the day after 11 o'clock. Does that work for everybody?
I got disconnected for a bit. I work on Tuesdays now. I work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Could we do an afternoon meeting on Tuesday? Perhaps late afternoon before council meeting?
Well, there's no council meeting on the 22nd.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, great. Could we do then the evening of the 22nd?
Yeah, if you guys want to do a 5:30 meeting that date, we can do that.
Does that work for everyone?
Works for me.
Yeah.
5:30 to 7.
So can we say 5:30 to 7 on September 22nd?
That's good for me.
Great. Okay, then I will, from the notes we've all compiled previously, I will fill in some bullet points in those main sections that were in that initial PowerPoint draft that we just had as a place to start. And then do we need a work session, or do we think we can to refine that prior to September? Should we schedule one work session?
I
Yes.
think
So
so.
you do have your August meeting.
You have what?
You have their August meeting.
Yeah, you
Right.
have an August meeting planned. Do you want to use that as your work session?
I think that might be good. And then it would give us a few weeks if we needed, for some reason, to touch base prior to September 22nd. So shall we, and if I understand, I can provide whatever notes I fill in here to Jen, and then Jen, can you get them to the committee prior to our August meeting so everybody will have a chance to look at it before we meet?
Yes, I can do that.
Great, thank you. Okay, then I will plan on having that available a week or two before the August meeting so folks can have a chance to look at it and take notes and make any changes, and then we can have more discussion in August.
I think you should go ahead and set your second public meeting now so that could be advertised and people can plan on making one of those meetings. So you have your 5:31 on the 22nd. Do you want to pick a date that you can do it during the day?
Is this something that people could access so that they could see the presentation and then provide comments? So because I'm wondering about if we are doing the presentation via Zoom, would it be necessary to actually present it again if people can access the presentation, if it's recorded?
Well, we'll have it on the website and I'll advertise it on Facebook and provide a link to the website where they can go get it. So if you want to just do one meeting and then just tell them that it's up there on the website for them to preview, that's okay too.
And it's also on YouTube,
It's on-
so they can
yeah.
watch it.
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube. When you do your presentation to the council and/or you do your meeting, we'll capture it on YouTube and they can go watch that. So it will also be in the publication about both
YouTube.
places where they can see the presentation.
Is that agreeable to everybody to approach it that way? And then in the same way, if for some reason people can't access it virtually, Karen can make it available to them in print?
Sounds like a plan.
Yes.
Great. So we'll do
Okay.
one live or Zoom presentation on September 22nd, 5:30 to 7 o'clock. So moving ahead, because I know we want to be mindful of the time. Thanks, everybody, on that. Likewise, we have Trout Mountain's updated plan, and I think we had discussed just including an addendum that would be the committee's recommendations on projects and priorities based on all of our meetings over the last year. I'd also be happy to draft up that addendum and have that ready for August also, and then we may be able to be moving both of those things along. As we're doing the public meetings, we'll also have the outline for what we want to include with the Trout Mountain updated plan for council. Is that agreeable to everybody, or other thoughts about that?
Okay with me.
Thank you. That's great.
Okay. I can be the compiler of notes over the next month. All right, then. So next item we have, got my pages here. Community grants, and you'll see in your packet there's an updated calendar here. And Jen, do you want to, or Karen, want to speak to kind of how we're thinking of we might proceed based on the new situation and what we
Yep, I
have
can
here
do
in the
that.
packet?
So in the packet, we revised the timeline. All of the applications that came in were existing organizations that the committee has seen before. We received 18 applications. They are all repeat applicants, so everyone's familiar with them. So we're proposing we skip presentations this year. If everyone agrees to this, after this meeting, I'll submit the applications to everyone so they can start reviewing them. And then at the August meeting, we can actually do where you discuss your recommendations and make our vote. If we do this in August, it can go to the September council work session and go for a live vote in October, which means the recipients would get their money mid-October. So it is kind of a little bit fast-tracked as far as when you get the applications to the approval time, but they are, again, people we all are familiar with.
Any thoughts or discussion on this?
This is Bruce. I just have one comment regarding the budget. We did fund at the same level as last year, so the funding is $90,000.
Thank you.
90K.
That's great. Thank you.
I have
So
to
if
say,
everyone's good with that,
I could say I really don't like this approach, but I don't think we have any choice. I would hope that we are not going to set a precedent of not having the interviews, because I think even though we have worked with these organizations, we have a new member on the committee that isn't familiar with any of the organizations. So I just would caution that we are only doing this for this year, this process.
I agree, Barb. I don't think this would set a precedence at all, because I agree.
Okay.
I think that's an important part of the process, and we would do this only in light of the adjustments we've had to make because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I
Thank
agree
you.
100%.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other thoughts or
And
comments?
I appreciate you guys being flexible to the things that we have had to change, and that includes our meeting style. It's been a big adjustment for everybody, so thank you for being flexible with this.
So
Go ahead.
thank you. If that's all looks good for folks, and just as a follow-up to that last thought, I think if, hopefully we're not still in this circumstance, but if so, I think with enough advance notice, organizations would be able to, do a brief presentation in a format like this in in the future if needed. So we can certainly see what will work for that, to meet that. So our packets in would come out this week, and then we'll have until August 17th to send in our worksheets to Jen.
Yep, and I'll send out a link, a file share link, which will have all the packets, it'll have your worksheet, it'll have all the information. And just if you can submit it to me by the 17th, and we'll discuss it at the August meeting.
Great. And as last year, will we have last year's, the numbers from last year?
Yep, you'll have the complete grant history and the worksheet, same thing as last year.
Great.
Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
Okay. So that is it for our main items. I just want to clarify in terms of the protocol for meetings. If I send out a draft for those two items to members prior to the August meeting, is it okay if people have feedback from me individually, that they contact me individually with that? Does that violate the rules or the meeting rule?
Yeah, this is Bruce. You can't do that. You can't, because that's what's called a series meeting or serial
right.
meeting. So you're meeting with two, but you're meeting with a different two every time.
Got it. Okay,
So,
I
what you can
remember
do,
that now.
If you want to send a draft, send it to Karen, and then Karen will distribute. Yeah, Karen will distribute it to the committee, and then the committee can talk
Right.
about it when they get there.
Got
So
it.
once one of you
Right.
puts your opinions in writing, anybody that follows up with their comments, that constitutes a meeting. So whoever goes first gets a get out of jail free card. Everybody else is in trouble.
Okay, so I'll just compile the notes I have. I'll get them to Karen and Jen, and then you all, and then we'll talk about it together in August, just so we'll.
Yeah, but we will distribute them.
Right, you'll get them to everybody prior, and then when we get together, we'll have all seen them.
Hey, Jelaine, this is Karen. This is a good opportunity for us to just kind of talk about that for a second, because as I mentioned earlier, this has been a big change for everybody, and we kind of have a habit of doing a reply all when somebody sends something out. So as the chair of the committees, I'm trying to remind folks that when you distribute something, please add a note right up at the top, like a header on your email that says, please do not reply all to this email, so that you remind your team that it's in violation of the rules that all of you guys had your training on as committee members and us as staff, that we can't do that. And so as the chair, I would hold you responsible for making that reminder whenever you're publishing anything. And then exactly what Bruce said, if you just direct it to me, and then I can get it out to you guys. And we'll kind of just make that a habit.
Yeah, thanks for that reminder. And I think, if we all get in the habit of just in between meetings, sending anything we have to staff, and then they will be.
Find out, yeah.
And I think that keeps us in the clear with that.
Yeah, great.
Okay, anything else on community grants or? Okay, great. So next item is good of the order. Do we have anything for good of the order?
Can I just summarize what I think I've captured here for you guys on relative to the meetings and what we've agreed to here? For the ECR plan update, I've got your August 20th will be your next Parks work session to finalize your plan and the prezo for the public comments meeting. The public comment meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 22nd at 5:30. And then I will work with Kathleen to get an article put together. Jelaine, she will probably contact you, or if you want to do what I typically do is I write something up for Kathleen and I send it to her and let her do an article off of my write-up. That way she quotes you verbatim and not just a over-the-phone conversation. So it's however you want to handle that, but we'll work to get something in the paper and on Facebook with a link to the presentation that's located on our website.
Yep.
Does that capture everything?
I think so. Anybody else
Hello?
have thoughts or questions? Okay, and then we will have the option if we need to tweak anything. If we aren't able to get it completely ready at the August 20th meeting, we'll have a chance. We can schedule another time to speak if we need to, and we'll also have our September meeting prior to the presentation.
And so I'll just remind you, I'm gonna push you guys to strive to make decisions and accomplish things, because as you can imagine, we're having a lot of meetings. And so trying to pick a date that you guys are available and I'm not competing with someone else's Zoom meeting is a challenge. So it's not as easy to schedule another meeting as frequently as we used to do right now. So just keep that in mind. I appreciate you working with me on that.
And this is Jennifer, one quick thing, we actually don't have the September meeting to discuss this anymore because all of your information will need to be posted by September 15th and your meeting's on the 17th. So we really do have to wrap it up in August because we have to post all of this information to get it out to people.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, anything else for go to the order? All right. Well, thank you all very much. Thanks for being flexible and bearing with me as I'm getting used to this new format also. It was really nice seeing some of your faces and hearing your voices for those of you who I didn't see. So just wish everybody well.
You guys did a good job today. You did a good job today. Thank you very much. Hey, we're doing the mask handout today. Just a reminder to all you guys, masks being handed out from 4 to 7 today at City Hall.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks,
All
guys.
right.
Thank
Be
you.
well, everybody, and we will see you, or we will meet again in August. Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.